Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, Harvey. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. And how's Lee? All right?
Yeah, she's okay.
Good. Good to hear. When I spoke to Ted the other day, he mentioned that some of the people on that side of the village were starting to go back up north.
Yeah, yeah. We're starting to lose some here this week for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Here too, we've had a few people leave already. Uh, Larry and Vicky Fish, for example, and some others. But I think we'll see more in the also next week as things change.
Yeah, well, I personally, going doesn't bother me. It's people coming back that bothers me.
Yeah, I know we were out walking the other day or last Shabbos, and somebody we know, not well from the shul, but was saying that they had a neighbor who had gone back up north for doctor's appointments and therefore had to stay a couple of days and then came back
Yeah.
down. So they said, is there a rule that that person should self-quarantine for 2 weeks?
All right.
They weren't sure.
Well, I don't think they rescinded that rule yet,
Yeah,
because I will tell you now, I have knowledge of the fact is when you come into Florida from Georgia
yeah,
and the various states, you are stopped at the border.
uh-huh.
And you then have to prove the fact that you do not have the virus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But that's if you're driving.
Yeah, when you're driving, yeah.
All right, so somebody who flies or somebody who,
I don't know what the airlines do. I don't know if they're taking temperature when you get on, before you get on planes or, you know, that part I don't know.
yeah,
I know about the driving, you know.
yeah, yeah,
But then, of course, then there are people who say, just let me know you're coming down. I'll tell you how to go around those
yeah,
police
uh-huh,
barricades.
yeah. All they're thinking about then is themselves and not the welfare of others, unfortunately.
That's the problem. Well,
Yeah, I
Mr. and Mrs.
was
Berg will stay away from people who have come down and did not self quarantine.
quarantined, yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good. Very true. Okay, we got Erwin is here. Okay, wait another minute or two and then we'll get started for today. I don't know if we'll be able to do more than today's Amud, which is in itself is pretty long.
All right.
So like I always tell you, I didn't edit the Gemara, I just try to teach it. Right?
How are you?
Okay. All right. Okay, Erwin, I think you have to mute yourself. Okay. Morning. Thank you. Morning, Bob. Good morning. Okay, we're going to get underway. All right, I know Ted should be joining us hopefully momentarily. And we welcome, who's that little guy there? Oh, I think I know him. Okay. We are on Side Aleph, Amud Aleph. We have been discussing a piece in the Gemara from the Mishnah on the bottom of the previous Amud. That again extended the discussion in the Gemara of transfer from one domain to another. We've dealt extensively with the issue of measurements, and now we're bringing in another criteria. And that criteria is Does this item have some significance, some importance for the person? For that reason, they have put it aside, and in doing so, carried from one domain to another. And our Mishnah gave a variety of examples, okay, in which the item could be carried out, okay, whether it was seeds for sowing, whether it was an item to plants, let's say, to make a dye in order to make an example, a model, okay, to put on the loom, whether it was something to be used for medication, all of these things. And then our Mishnah basically implied that what if the person who set it aside was not necessarily the person who carried it out, okay, who transferred it, all right? Okay, what's the situation there? Okay, and so that's the Gemara started at the end, okay, based on the issue of language. They changed it, and Abaye gave an example. Kigon shehitzniyo, it's a person who set it aside. V'shachach lama hitzniyo, forgot why they set it aside. In other words, they had this intent, initial intent, okay? Forgot why they had done. V'hashta kamafik leistama. And then the person simply takes it out, right? There's Ted. And now we're back on the top of Tzadi Aleph. Mahu detema, we said, what did it mean? Batuli batla machshavto. Maybe we're going to say that the person's intent is canceled simply by forgetting why they had set it aside. Kamash Malan, says the Gemara, comes to teach us that's not the case, okay? And we're informed, Kol ha'oseh al dat rishona hu oseh, that we base it on the person's original intent. And now we're picking up for today. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Shmuel, okay? Mechayev haya Rabbi Meir, that Rabbi Meir would also consider one as over, in other words, obligated, as right. Af b'motzi chita achat lezriyah, even if a person took out a single seed for the purpose of sowing. Okay, pshita is kol shahu tnan. Isn't that obvious? After all, our Mishnah taught in any amount, whatever the size. Mahu detema. What are you coming then to tell us? Kol shahu. What do we mean when we say whatever the size? Okay. La'afuke migrogeret. Maybe it comes to tell us that we still have to deal with the issue of measurements, okay, to exclude anything that's less than the dried fig bulk, okay? Gemara continues, however, le'olam ad de'ika kazayat. But maybe we would say it has to be enough that it would be the size of an olive. Kamash Malan comes to teach us again that that's not the case. Now, Mad Kifla Rav Yitzchak bereid the Rav Yehuda. Rav Yitzchak, the son of Rav Yehuda, challenged, right, with the following. Ela me'ata, okay? If you're implying that the criteria of being over and transferring something from one domain to another on Shabbat is not primarily based on measurement, but instead could be based primarily on a person's intent, okay, which is what it seems to be saying earlier, right, at the top of the Amud. Chishev lahotzi kol beito, if his intent was to, let's say, carry everything out of his whole house, right? Hachanami delo mechayev ad demafik lekule. If that's the case, he would not be obligated, right? He would not be over, okay, and have to bring the chatas until he completed removing everything from his whole house. Okay? Why? hatam batla dato etzel kol adam. But we say that's not the end result because his intention is automatically nullified because most people don't think in those terms. And therefore, as a result, okay, we say that's the point, okay? So therefore, we don't simply go by intent, but we have to go by measurement as well. Okay, why is that important? Because the next part of our Mishnah said, if let's say I was the one who put something aside, and Erwin, I'm going to pick on you. All right, you were the one who took it out, okay? But maybe it wasn't, maybe because it was my intent to save it and take it out, but you happened to carry it out. Are you still going to be over, or you or anybody that takes it out, okay, on any amount? No, our Mishnah said only if you took out the specific minimum shiur, the minimum measurement. And that's where our Mishnah is going to continue now. V'chol adam ein chayavin alav ela kashiuro. Okay? That all others aren't going to be culpable, aren't going to be guilty, except if they take out according to the appropriate standard, the appropriate measurement. Right? Matnitin delo Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. So our Mishnah then can't be according to the view, says the Gemara, of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Why is that the case? Titania, because Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar stated a general rule. Klal amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Kol she'eno kasher lahatzniya. Okay, if somebody's not fit or has the intent to put it away, to set it aside, ve'ein matzni'in kamohu. Okay, and somebody else, okay, right, and it's not appropriate, so to speak, for that other person. Okay, in other words, the other person doesn't have a use for it. Okay, ve'ein matzne'in kamohu, and they wouldn't necessarily have set something similar aside. V'huchshar lazeh, okay, but it is fitting for him to use. V'hitznio, and he would put it aside. Uba acher v'hotzi, and along comes somebody else and does take it out, transfer it. Nitchayev zeh b'machshavto shel zeh, says Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, that the other person who took it out, does become chayev, culpable, based on the intent, the thought of the first person's intent to put it aside. Okay? Now, Amar Rava, so therefore our Mishnah can't be according to Rabbi Shimon there. Okay? Now, Amar Rava, says Rava, Amar Rav Nachman, in the name of Rav Nachman, Otzi kegrogeret la'achila, in a slightly different scenario. Okay? We're saying that still have to deal with measure. The food measurement, we said, is generally the olive bulk measurement. Let's say he brought out some seeds, or he brought out a fruit, okay? And it was the size of the half fig bulk, okay? And his initial intent, okay, was to eat it. V'nimlach aleh lizriya. But he reconsidered and then decided to use it for sowing the seeds. Inami, or perhaps lizriya, his initial intent was to take it out for sowing, v'nimlach aleh la'achila, and he instead recanted and decided to change his mind for eating it. Chayav. Okay, it would seem that he should still be culpable. Pshita, that's obvious, says the Gemara. Zil hacha. Okay, so why is that so obvious? Okay, the implication is, all right, the following. Zil hacha, ika shiura. You could go in this case and say there is a minimum shiur, v'zil hacha, ika l'shiura. And you could go in that case and say again, there's a minimum shiur. Okay, whether it was for eating or whether it was for sewing, right? Mahu detema. So what are you then coming to inform us? Ba'inen akira v'hanicha bechada machshava v'haleka. We may have thought, says the Gemara, that the same person with the same intent to take it out and to put it back, okay, in a single intent, in one mindset, and that's not the case here, okay, because his mindset changed from how he was going to use the item, that maybe therefore the person would not be culpable. Kamashmalan comes to teach us that's not the case. Okay, let's go on. By Rava. Rava now asks the following question. Hotzi chatzi grogeret lezriya. If he took half a fig bulk worth, okay, big fig bulk size, measurement, for the purpose of sowing the seeds, vitafcha, and it swells up. In other words, the seed got moist and it expanded. Okay. V'namlach aleh la'achila, and therefore reconsidered and decided to have it for eating. Mahu, what's the situation? Im tirtzelomar, if you want to say, hatam hu demechayev, that there he should be, right, be considered culpable or guilty, right? Dezil, right? Hacha, okay, ika shi'ora. Because we might consider that there, once it swelled up, it reached the appropriate minimum measurement, and therefore he is culpable. V'zil hacha ika shi'ura. And now it comes and it reaches that minimum standard, that minimum measurement. Hacha kivan de ba'idna de afka. But here, since now we might say that its status of the seeds of the food changed, okay? And we might say it came out when he carried it out, okay, that it initially wasn't the minimum measurement, the hafgala hava beshiura achila, because it wasn't originally the minimum measurement for eating. Lo machayev. Maybe we shouldn't consider him guilty. Oh, Dilma, or perhaps the following. Kevan de ilu ishtik velo chashivale. But perhaps because the person was silent, all right, and he didn't change his intent, okay? Right, if that's the case, he didn't intend it for another purpose, okay? Right, mechayev amachshava dezri'ah, that he should nevertheless be considered guilty because of the intent of sowing it. Ashtanami mechayev, would we say here too, he's also going to be guilty? Ve'im tirtzelomar, and furthermore, if you should want to say the following, kevan de'ilu ishtik, because he was silent and he didn't change his intent, velo chashiva lei, okay, and he didn't intend it for another purpose, okay, mechayev v'machshava dezriya, that maybe we should hold him guilty, right, because of his intent of sowing. Hashtanami mechayev. Now do we also say he's guilty? Otzi krigrogeret la'achila. Okay, and if he took it out and it was the minimum measurement of a grogeret, the fig bulk, for eating, vitsamka, and it shrunk, v'nimlach alei mizri'ah, and therefore he decided to use it instead for planting, for sowing. Mahu, what's the status? Hacha vadai ki ishtik. Here we say, certainly since he was silent, okay? In other words, he did not change his intent. Amachshava kamaita lo mechayev. On his earlier thought, okay, his original intent, are we saying where he's not going to be guilty? O dilma, or perhaps, batar hashta azlina numachayev. Or after, he says, now that he has the amount that might be susceptible to minimum measurement, azlinam, that's what we go, umachayev, and we hold that he's guilty. Ve'im tirtzelomar, and further.
Rabbi, this is all because it's Shabbos, right?
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Ve'im tirtzelomar, and still if you want to say, batar hashta, after now, azlinan umachayev, now that he's, whatever this less than bulk's worth has now increased, swollen up, and it's now, even though he changed his intent, it's still a minimum measure for him to be chayev, right? Azlinan umachayev, and we go based on that, the current status, and say he's chayev. Otzi kigrogeret la'achila. What about if he actually initially took out a fig bulk worth for the purpose of eating, vitsamka, and then it shrunk, v'chazra, and then it went back, v'tifcha, and swelled up again. Mahu, what's the status then? Okay, so the Gemara then asks the following question: Yesh dichui le'inyan Shabbat? Do we say that there's some kind of disqualification in regards to Shabbat, okay, from its designated status? In other words, the change of it shrinking and growing, okay, means it's enough of a change, okay, that we're not going to say he is chayav. Or ein dichui le'inyan Shabbat? Or do we say that there is no disqualification here, okay? And that the change in the size of the measurement is not applicable. And therefore, since he particularly did not designate a change in his intent, okay, that if he took it out and it was the appropriate measurement to be chayav, regardless, he's still going to be chayav. Or the opposite, teku. We have no result, no clear decision. Okay, now, again, we come to an issue. Rabba asks Rav Nachman, by mine Rabba me Rav Nachman, in a new discussion. Zarak kezayet truma abayet tameh. He throws an amount of truma, okay? How much? Kezayet, which is the minimum amount, zarak kezayet truma, into a unclean house. Mahu, what's the status? Lamai, for what purpose, asks the Gemara. Ila inyan Shabbat, if you're talking about in respect to Shabbat, in this case, okay, whether his act of throwing, okay, is like transfer, and therefore he's going to be chayav, okay. Kigro geret ba'inan. In that case, we need a minimum shear of a fig bulk or amount. Ila inyan tuma. If you're talking about it's in regards to the question of defilement, tuma. Kibetza ochlim ba'ina. There, in that case, it has to be, if it's a foodstuff, truma, Doesn't it have to be the size of an egg? Le'olam le'inyan Shabbat. No, here we're also dealing with respect to the Shabbat. Ukegon de'ika pachot mikebeitza ochlin. Okay, and we're talking about the fact, okay, right, that we say that we're dealing with less than an egg amount of foodstuffs. V'hai mashlimo lebeitza. And by throwing that kezias, okay, of truma in, it adds to whatever's already existing in the ha, okay, and that brings us to the total of a beitza, an egg's worth. What is the situation? Midim mitztaref le'inyan tuma, since it joins and connects to the issue of defilement. Mechayev nami le'inyan Shabbat. Do we say therefore that it also makes him culpable, okay, the act of throwing on Shabbat? O Dilma, or perhaps, kol le'inyan Shabbat kigro geret ba'inan. Or do we say that any amount in regards to Shabbat requires the minimum measurement of a fig bulk worth? And that's what we require. And therefore, by only throwing a kezias of the truma, he's not chayav. Right? Amar le tani to her. Okay? So Rav Nachman responds, we learned this. Abba Shaul Omer. Abba Shaul said the following. Okay? Remember, we learned all of the avodos, all of the avot malacha based on the Mishkan. Okay? And we had a Mishnah that went through all those examples. Okay? So we're now going to come back, I'm going to suggest, and use that model, okay, in giving the following answer. Okay? So Abba Shaul's answer, Shtei halechem, v'lechem hapanim, okay, the two loaves of bread, okay, remember that are used for Shavuot, and the lechem hapanim, the bread that's used for on Shabbat, shiuran kigro geret, their measurement is that of a fig bulk, dried fig bulk worth, okay? Implying that if one were to have carried them out on the Shabbat, that would imply being chayav, okay? Va'amai, why is that the case? Lema, shall we say, midile inyan yotzei b'kezayis? Shall we say then that in respect to going out, okay, the standard, the measurement is a kezayis. Le'inyan Shabbat, nami b'kezayis. Then in respect to Shabbat, the minimum measurement should also be a kezayis. Hachi hashta. So how do you compare those two? Hatam mida afke chutz lechomat ha'azara ifsile. There, in the case of the showbread and the lechem hapanim, we say once you took it out of the walls of the temple courtyard, it becomes pasul. Okay? It's no longer acceptable whatsoever. Biyotzei haShabbat, but when you're talking about carrying out on Shabbat, lo mechayev ad demafik leila rushu tarabi. We don't say that somebody becomes culpable until they take it into the public domain. Hacha Shabbat v'tuma bahade hadade ka'atya. But here, in this case, we say what happens is that by throwing that minimum amount, that kezayis of truma, the act of breaking Shabbat, as well as the act of adding to the minimum shiur inside the house to make it totally tame is an act that's combined, and it's done at one and the same time. Okay, and therefore that's why that parallel is not correct. Now, let's come back to the last part of our Mishnah. Chazar v'hichniso eno chayav ela kashiuro. Okay, if the person carried it back again, he's liable only according to the appropriate standard, the appropriate measurement. Pshita. Isn't that obvious? Amar Abai. Says Abai hacha b'ma yaskin. What are we talking about here? Kigon shezarko la'otsar u'mekomo nikar. A situation where he threw it into the storehouse, all right? But where it landed, okay, that place is recognizable. In other words, he is able to, he didn't change his mind because there he sees it. And therefore, okay, he clearly had intent, okay, to setting it aside, all right? Mahu detema, what then are you trying to tell us? Kevan de mikomonika, since the place where that item is recognized, he knows it's there for storage. Bemilte kamaite kai. Do we say then that this is based on his earlier thought, his earlier mindset, his earlier statement? Kamash malan comes to teach us. Midezarika laotza batule batle. Okay, since he threw it in there, okay, in other words, it just happened to be recognizable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that his intent of being sure to store it and take it back out again was clear. That intent was clear, and therefore he would not be chayav in that situation. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go on to our new Mishnah. Our new Mishnah is going to give us a little more to think about, right? And I'm reminding everybody that when we give the idea of a threshold here, okay, remember, think of the fact in Israel, the houses had a stone threshold that could be as much as a foot in width, something like that. Okay, that's what comes to my mind. So the Mishnah raises the following: Hamotzi ochli. One, it carries out food, right, from his home. Okay, v'natnan al ha'as kufa, and he puts it down on the threshold. Bein shechazar v'hotzian, regardless of whether he then comes back, in other words, the same person, and then carries it out further. Bein shehotzian acher, or whether somebody else comes and then takes it out. Patur, one is exempt. Why? According to the Mishnah, because the entire act was not done, let's say, in a single performance. Okay? Kupa, a basket, shehi mele'a perot, that's full of various fruits. Okay? Right? The produce. V'natna al ha'askupa hachitzona, and one places it on the outside threshold. Afal pi sherov perot mibachutz, even though the majority of the produce in the basket is outside. Okay, in other words, it could be actually could be in more public domain. Patur ad shiotzi et kol hakupa, until he he is exempt until he brings out the entire basket. Okay, now Gemara is going to deal with this question because part of it asks, number one, we're still dealing with Shabbat. We're still dealing with domains. What is the domain of that threshold? Is that going to be considered Rishus Harabim? Is it considered to be Rishus Hayachid? Or maybe we should consider it a Carmelit, right? So that's one question we can just consider initially, okay? But we have another question, okay? The items in that basket, okay? What about if part of it could be in one domain, part of it could be in another domain? What about that situation, right? Okay, let's come back now. Hi, Askupa, Mai, asks the Gemara. What is this about a threshold? Ilema Askupa Rishutarabi. If we're going to say that this threshold is public domain, Patur, one would consider him exempt. Ha kamafik mirishut hayachid l'rishut Rabbi. Here he has brought something out from the private domain to public domain. Ela askupa rishut hayachid. Rather, maybe we should assume that the threshold is private domain, rishut hayachid. Bein shechazar v'hotzian, regardless of whether he then went and took it out. Bein shehotzian acher, because our Mishnah said whether he took it out or somebody else took it out, exempt. Ha kamafik mirishut hayachid l'rishut harabi. But here he's still bringing out from a private domain to public domain. Ella askupa karmalit. But rather we're saying that the threshold is a karmalit, right? Okay. Vaha karmala, or vaha kamashmala, ta'ama denach b'karmalit. And here we might say then that the reason is because he put it down in a karmalit. Ha lo nach b'karmalit, and if he had not put it down in a karmalit, mechayev, he would be considered culpable. Okay? Now, Gemara says as follows, Matnitin delo keben azai. But our Mishnah then cannot be according to Ben Azai. The Tanya, who teaches as follows, Hamotzi mechanut lapaltaya, one who carries something from his store into the plaza, derech stav, okay, through a colonnade. Okay? If you've been to Israel, remember they've got the cardo, right? And the cardo had those columns, right? So the stores were on either side. So if you carried it from the store under the colonnade into the thoroughfare, okay, chayav, one is obligated, one is culpable. Uben azai poter, and Ben Azai say is exempt, right? So that's why we say our Mishnah can't be according to him, right? Because this person would be chayav. Now let's get to another part of our Mishnah. Kupa shehi mele'ah. This basket is full of produce. Amar Chizkiah, says Chizkiah, lo shanu ela bekupa mele'ah kishu'in v'dilu'in. This was not taught except in regarding a basket that was full of cucumbers or full of gourds. Okay, remember long items, right? Aval mele'ah chardal, but if it was full of mustard seeds, chayav, he would be culpable. Alma, therefore, Kasavar eged kli lo shmei eged. That the fusion, that the items together in the basket, okay, don't combine to be considered a single item. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, afilu meleach chardal patur. But Rabbi Yochanan says, even if it's full of mustard seeds, the person is exempt. Alma, okay, what's the basis? Kasavar eged kli shmei eged, which seems to imply that Rabbi Yochanan must hold that the items fuse together as if they're a single item. Amar Rabbi Zera, says Rabbi Zera, matnitin jelo kechizkiah daika. Our Mishnah then cannot be according to the way Chizkiah tried to determine it, to clarify it. Udelo Rabbi Yochanan daika. But it seems also that it's not according to the way Rabbi Yochanan attempted to define it. Kechizkiah lo daika, that it was not according to the way Chizkiah tried to define it, to specify it. The katani ad shiotzi et kol hakupa, because our Mishnah taught, and he's not guilty until he carries out the entire basket. Tama de kol hakupa. Okay, why? Because it says the entire basket. Ha kol haperot patur. But if where it's all the fruit, all the produce, he would be exempt. Alma kasavar eged kli shmei eged. Therefore, it must be that he's of the mindset, of the perspective, that the fusion causes the item in the basket to be considered a single item. Rabbi Yochanan lo daika, and according to Rabbi Yochanan, it can't be specified. The katani, because our Mishnah again taught, afal pisha rov perot bachutz, even though the majority of the produce was outside, tama de rov perot, the reason being that the majority of the fruit, hakol perot, here, if all the fruit, afal gav de agida, even though it might have been considered a single item fused together, kupa migorai chayav. Once the basket is in right outside, he's guilty, culpable. Alma kasavar eged kli lo shmei eged, which seems to imply that the fusion of considering all these items together is not considered a single item. Ve'ela kasha, and therefore it's a problem. Gemara responds, Chizkiah metaretz l'ta'ameh, v'Rabbi Yochanan metaretz l'ta'ameh. Chizkiah would give a response according to his view, and Rabbi Yochanan would give a response according to his view. Chizkiah metaretz l'ta'ameh. Chizkiah would give a response according to his view, namely, ad shiotzi et kol hakupa, when it says until he brings out the entire basket. B'med varim amurim, what are we talking about? Bekupa meleya kishu'inu deli'in. I'm talking about a basket that's full of cucumbers or gourds. Avam meleya chardal, but if it's full of mustard seeds, ne'esa kami shehotzi et kol hakupa v'chayav. Then it's as if, okay, he took out the entire basket and he would be culpable. Rabbi Yochanan metaretz l'ta'ameh, and Rabbi Yochanan would give his explanation. Afal pi sherov perot bachutz, even though the majority of the produce is outside, v'lo rov perot bilvad, and not simply the majority of the produce. Ela afilu kol perot, even all the produce, patur, one would be exempt. Ad sheotzi et kol hakupa, until one brings out the entire basket. Now, Meitive will challenge this with the following Braita. Hamotzi kupat harochlim, one who carries out, let's say, a bundle or a basket for merchants or peddlers. V'natna al askupa hachitzona, and puts it on the outside threshold. Afal pi sherov minin bachutz, even though there's a variety, different kinds of items, let's call it spices for the moment, okay, inside the basket. Patur ad sheyotzi et kol hakupa, one is exempt until they carry out the entire basket. Kal salka da'atcha b'tzarari. Maybe we're talking here about stocks, right? We're talking about here that these items are various stocks, various whole pieces. Okay, well, others want to define it as prickly shrubs. Okay, in other words, they're long bundles of spices that are going to be used for medicine. Kasha l'chizkiah. Then that would be problematic for Chizkiah. Amar l'chizkiah, hacha b'mai yaskinen. What are we really talking about here, he says? B'or nase. Okay, we're talking about a situation, he says, that's what we're dealing with. Not individual grains, bundles of spices, but long bundles of spices. Okay. Meitiv Rav Bibi Bar Abaye. Now Rav Bibi Bar Abaye is going to raise an objection. Okay. So in other words, the size of the items that are carried out in the basket. And now Rav Bibi says as follows. What about the following challenge? Hagonev kis b'Shabbat. Let's say someone steals a purse, a bag of money on Shabbat. Chayav, he's culpable. Shekvar nitchayev b'geniva kodem sheyavo lidei isur Shabbat. Why? Because he argues he's already culpable for robbery before he even initiated any prohibition of Shabbos. However, he continues, Hayam migarer, if he grabbed this purse, this bag of money, viyotze, and pulled it out into a different domain, patur, he would be exempt from at least the culpability on Shabbat. Sheharei isur gneva ve'isur Shabbat ba'in ke'echad. Why? Because the prohibition of the stealing and the prohibition of Shabbat occur at the same time, and we only punish him, remember, for the greater crime. Okay? That's the issue. Ve'isal geda'ata aged kli shmei iged. And if you're going to hold that the fusion of various items makes it like a single item, kadim le'isur gniva le'isur Shabbat. Therefore, that the prohibition, okay, of thievery preceded the prohibition of transgressing Shabbat. Ida'afke derech piv. Okay, hachanami. Okay, and if he had just grabbed the bag, the purse, from the top, from its opening, and took it out, here too, hachana b'mai yaskina. Here then, what are we talking about? Da'afke derech shulav. Okay, maybe we could say that he carried it out. He moved the bag, okay, from underneath, okay? In other words, he carried it out not in a normal manner, right? From underneath, where the seam was. Va'ika machom chalama, asks the Gemara. But here, okay, let's just go over a little bit. Don't we say that there are seams there? Okay, and what happens? De'i by mafkele, that if he wanted, he could have ripped the bag open where the seams are and simply extracted the coins one at a time or by handfuls. Okay, and therefore, right, that would be a different situation. So the Gemara answers, V'shakil b'nisach, namely that the bag had straps, metal straps surrounding it. V'kevan de'ika shunsin, and since it has these straps, these laces tying around it, mafik le ad pume. He had no choice, in a sense, but to take it by the top of the bag, by the opening. V'shari v'shakil v'shnitzin, agidi migovai. Okay, and then untie the straps and take it out. Okay, while the straps still hold the items inside. Deleka shinsin, and if it didn't have straps, the ibayat ema. If you want, I would say the itle, that it did have straps, umekarche eluye, and the straps were round about the entire purse. Okay? Now, what happens? V'chein amar Rava, and likewise, says Rava, we're going to say the following. Lo shanu ela bekupam le'aki shu'inu d'le'im. Similarly, he said, that's why we only taught the issue of the basket in regards to it being full of cucumbers and gourds. Aval mole'ach chardal, but if it was full of mustard seed, chayav, he would be culpable. Alma kasava, eged kli lo shmei eged. And that would therefore tell us that he's of the opinion that that if it is co-joined, if it's fused together, all right, a number of items in the basket, even together, that is not considered them a union, a single item. They're still separate items. Now, just to finish up, Abaye Amar, Afilu Mileach Chardal. Now, I'm going to finish in just a second or two. Abaye disagrees. Amar Afilu Mileach Chardal Patur. Even if it's full of mustard seed, he should be exempt. Alma Kasavar, Eged Kli Shmei Eged. Okay, because Abaye holds that's not the case, that the items are fused and are a single item. Okay, the Gemara therefore is going to go into then this discussion of Abaye and Rava, which I'm going to try to quickly bring us up so we can stop at the Mishnah that's coming up. Okay, come Abaye b'shitate the Rava. Abaye then accepted the view of Rava, and Rava b'shitate de Abaye, and Rava switched and began to accept the view of Abaye. V'rami de Abaye de Abaye, and this caused a self-contradiction between what Abaye said, V'rami de Rava de Rava, and a contradiction between what Rava said. The Itmar, as it was said, Hamotzi perot l'reshut harabi, as was said elsewhere, one who carries out produce into the public domain. Abaye Amar biyad, if he did it by hand, he would be culpable. B'kli patur, with a utensil, he would be exempt. The Rava Amar, and Rava said, biyad patur, by hand, he would be exempt. B'kli chayav. And by utensil, he would be obligated. Ipuch. Okay? Switch it, says the Gemara. Biyad chayav. And say with that with a hand, he would be culpable. Bahatnan. Aren't we taught elsewhere in another Mishnah? Pshad ba'al habayit. That if the homeowner put out his hand at yado lachutz to the outside, v'natal ha'ani metocha, and a poor person on the outside took something from it, oh shenatam metocha, or the poor person put something inside, v'hechnis, and brought it in, shnehen pturin, both of them are exempt, hatam lamala mishalosh. There was saying that Mishnah was only inapplicable if they transferred something above 3 tfachim. Hacha lamata mishlosha. But here, the transfer of the produce to the basket was below 3 tfachim, and that's why they say one is chayav. And we'll stop right there. Okay.
Have a good Shabbos. Thank you.
Everybody have a good Shabbos and stay well.
Take care. Harry, nice to see you.